Welcome to episode 1 of the Mannix Muzik Podcast, which is destined to be continued until forever. Mannix, thank you for being here. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
So the first thing I wanted to talk about is after being a DJ and music producer for about 20 years, what motivated you to start a label on top of that?
I don't know. It's just I've thought about doing it for more than 20 years actually, and finally I did it. I can't tell you the exact reasons. It's just one more possibility to create output, I think, and to have some sort of freedom, and that was the basic thought.
You obviously had too much time.
I'm always having too much time. I don't know what to do all day long, so it was obvious to do it like this, yeah.
So what's the name of your label and when did you start?
The name of the label is Dafür Records. It's Austrian slang. It means to be pro something. That was the idea to have something positive. And I started in 2021.
21, yeah. So Dafür is actually, being Austrian too, I get it. But it's going to be very difficult for other people to get it.
I don't care.
It would need a lot of explanation.
Yeah, but it still sounds good in English. That was one more reason to do it. And it's quite funny in Austria, so... and the German-speaking part of the world, so was a funny thought.
Yeah. What do you see as the benefits now that you have a label? What's the additional something that you didn't have before or that you couldn't do before?
It's a big possibility to have freedom. You have the freedom to release what you want, when you want, and also financial things. You can sign records that you are able to sign. You don't need to think about big deals or anything. You just can do whatever you want together with your artists. That's a big freedom, I think.
Is it the same kind of satisfaction that you get if you release a track that you've produced, for example, and it's successful, you get good feedback and everything? Is it kind of a similar feeling when that happens with a record that you signed and released, but you didn't produce it?
Yeah, it's always nice when something is successful, of course. And it's quite difficult today to say it before that something will be successful, because there's so many things working together. You never know when something explodes or not. But the problem with other labels, when you have productions on other labels, is that you are dependent on it, on somebody else. You don't know when it's going to be released, which remixes are getting done. You basically, as an artist, you don't have much influence on that. So having learned the lesson as an artist myself, having released many records on other different labels, it's to be honest, it's pain in the ass. Because you have to run for your money, you never get payments, you really don't know sales, and it's not a subject of small or big labels. They are all acting the same, more or less.
So you decided to change seats so you can treat artists like that.
I'm now the big boss, treating artists exactly like you said. No, the thing is really to do it differently, and I think the feedback I get from my artists is a very good one. That I actually still pay singers, songwriters, and producers. And also remixes, and I think you can hear it if you pay somebody. Yeah, he has a different motivation to deliver than if you get no money.
Which is strangely enough not the norm these days. Like, I think music business has changed in a way that, like 20 years ago, people really got paid for stuff, and now everybody has to deliver everything for free at first in most places. And nobody's paying you until something really blows up, which in most cases to be true is never.
But that's a thing the industry does. But who says that's the way it's gotta have to be? If we all stick together and say we pay artists, we pay remixers, we pay singers, songwriters, musicians, then the thing is gonna work too. There's enough money there. Nobody can tell me there's no money in music industry. It's just different.
In the hands of the wrong people.
Yeah, no, it's in the hands of a few people.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like normal life. The rich are getting richer, and all the others have nothing, more or less.
Yeah.
And that's something we have to change. And such a label like mine can do a very little thing to make things better, and probably some others will follow. I hope so.
It's actually good to see that you are handling those things differently, having experienced the negative side as an artist. So that sounds a little bit like, let's call it a philosophy. Are there philosophies behind DAFIA on the business side, on the music side?
Yeah, on both there are philosophies. On the business side, it's of course putting out your own music and also signing records that you are able to sign. I cannot sign a track that is supposed to be on a major label. That's not in my financial business plan. But I can sign records I believe in, from young people, from established artists. I don't care. It just has to be a good track, and so you give some chance to up and rising producers. If you release something, if you get remixes done, most of the young producers, they are very happy if somebody big remixes their own track. So that's what I'm trying to do on the one hand side, and on the other hand side, from the music kind of look, it has to be something with a portion of soul, I would say. So I have 45 tracks now out on the label and one album, and all those tracks have one thing in common. It's some portion of soul is in every track. It can be a harder track, a deep house track, but it also always has some soulful parts in it.
Yeah, that's like what I would categorize your releases overall. The basis of the soulful thing, and then reaching out to other genres, but the base is always soul. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to be stuck into one genre. I think there are so many genres, and people are acting crazy, like searching for genres. I don't understand it. I just understand if a track is good or not. And if it's, maybe I'll sign a techno track one day. If it has something that catches me, why not?
Something soulful. So how can we imagine a day at the DAFIA office when you are having a label day?
Probably I'll enter the studio without any clothes on, and and I listen to music. I listen to demos a lot. I get sent quite a lot of demos, and that's a very important thing, to listen carefully on demos and give feedback to the artists. So there's quite some demos where I see the idea behind it, but the execution is still not perfect. So I try to give feedback to those young artists. On the other hand side, you have to be direct and say, if something is not for your label, you have to tell them it's not for your label for a specific reason. And so that takes a lot of time, listening to demos. I'm always, you can say, 1 year ahead of the release date. So I have signed records for more than 1 year in front. And the second thing that takes a lot of time is the paperwork for the distribution, making releases ready, marketing, promotions, and so on.
Talking about demos, for each record that you finally release, how many demos did you listen to that are not being signed? Is that like 1 in 100 or 1 in 50 or 1 in 500?
It depends on the time, really. Some weeks you get sent 20 demos and then just 5. But it can happen that you get sent 5 demos and they're all very good, and you want to sign every of them, and then you get maybe sent demos which are really not good in a high quantity. Yeah. So you cannot say monthly it's like this or that. It's very different. Yeah. But of course you get sent a lot of demos.
Is it easy to make a difference between, like, is it easy when you get a demo that you listen to, that you hear immediately if the one who did it like from the heart, or if it's somebody who's just trying to do something real quick and trying to get a quick way to success?
What you can hear with a certain experience is if somebody wants to copy something else. Yeah. That's what you hear, and you also hear if technically it's not good enough. It's some kind of bedroom production, which I don't have anything against. Because
if it's good,
because many of the big artists have been bedroom producers before, including myself, and so you can hear certain things, but. Sometimes it's really funny because you get sent a demo and you don't like it, you give feedback, and the next demo is really good. So people, if they know what to do and take their lessons, they can be very, very good or better the next time, which is short period of time, because we all have the technique to really improve very fast.
Yeah. What about music trends? Like, there's always some sort of fashion of the year. Do you kind of take that in your releases, or are you trying to keep it out?
I hate it. Yeah. Sorry for saying that, but it's the truth. I'm only telling the truth. I think it's very important to stick to something within a certain bandwidth, but I have seen so many artists jumping on trains that are en vogue for a certain period of time, and then they change it. It's the same with DJs. I've never changed my style DJing, and I will not. So that, of course, leads to a certain up and down as a DJ too. So if your sound is not on vogue, you will not get so many bookings. But if it's on vogue, you will get many bookings. And it's the same with the music. But still, trends, you have to see trends, of course. And you have to take them seriously. And you can include them at some point. But I'm not changing the direction of the label.
Yeah.
If you see release 1 and release 45 now, you will see a certain development, hopefully, but also a certain strategy.
Yeah. Looking at all the different things that you are doing in the label or as a DJ and as a producer, which are your favorite parts of the label work, and how much do you like them compared to the other things that you do?
Label work, to be honest, is sometimes it's a pain in the ass because it takes a long time. It's very technically, you have to fill in Excel lists and preparing releases and everything. And also the promotion kind of stuff is not very logic anymore. Back in the day, you really knew when you had a big record in your hands. it was clear from the first listen. Nowadays, you feel like you have a big record, and it doesn't explode for any reason. And then you have other records where you say, let's just put it out, no promotion, nothing special, and it gets to number one, and you cannot explain it. So that's the kind of label work should have a motivation where you say, okay, I have a big track now in my hands. I want to prepare it as good as I can because everybody has to play it, and it has to be on radio and so on. And sometimes it doesn't work today.
Well, that's one thing which is very, like, if you've got a lot of experience with music business, you at a point you realize that all the predictions that people used to make before a release, it never holds. It's like, it's wild out there. It's like people think it's gonna blow up really big and nothing happens, and unexpected things get really big. It's like the prediction thing has never worked for anyone in the music business as far as I see it, with the exceptions. Like everybody knew that Nirvana is going to be huge, and it happened, yeah, but in general predictions are nothing.
I think back in the day when I was a young producer, there were certain ways you had to go when you have a big record. You had to go to Miami Winter Music Conference in March, and when you reached the point that the big DJs were playing your record, it was really vinyl. You gave out your vinyl to the DJs over there, and when you reached the point that Louis Vega or people like this was playing your record, then you had a high possibility that your record is a big track the summer after it. Yeah. So the big labels were all there, and they all listened, the A&Rs, they all listened who's playing what. And when a certain track was played by many DJs, they really opened up their checkbooks and said, okay, I want to sign this record. And then it was a normal process that big labels or certain labels built up a track during the summer, and then end of summer, beginning of autumn, you had a big hit with the video, with marketing, and with everything. So that was kind of predictable, but of course you cannot predict the number one chart position. You couldn't back in the day, and you cannot today. But what happens today still is that a lot of marketing budget is put into certain artists in the pop part of the music, and so they really cannot fail. Can somebody like Taylor Swift fail? No, it's not possible. It's like saying too big to fail, because everything around her is so perfect that it's not possible that she has a track that is ranked 50 or something.
Once you've reached that level, you can put out anything and it will work unless it's really bad. Talking about signing new producers, you have any tips on how they can approach you best to get their demos heard and get feedback?
I have several ways to be contacted. Best way is SoundCloud, Mannix Muzik. It's the best way to send files, a private link, and you can also do WeTransfer or something like this via email or Messenger, Facebook, Instagram, direct message.
So you've got that on your label Dafia website, which is?
No, I don't have a website for Dafia Records because
it's too old school.
Yeah, I don't think it really needs to have one. But it's the channels I said now. Basically all the channels I mentioned. Just
so people find you on SoundCloud, social media.
Yeah. All the social media, you can contact me or via email and
Tinder, Grindr,
OnlyFans, OnlyFans,
the Dafia OnlyFans page.
It's really some very special content over there.
So let's talk about, you said you started the label in 21.
Yeah.
So that's 3 years now. Is there any sort of conclusions so far? Is it just something totally new to you, or have you come to a point?
I have done A&R for a very long time for other labels, so signing records was not new to me, and I have to say I hope I have talent in it, and I see the releases are working good. So I think it's a good thing to do that. It makes me happy signing records. It's a very big part of my job at the label to sign records, and I would say the most important thing is to keep some sort of I would say for a label, the most important thing is that you keep the focus on releasing stuff, not doing too many breaks, not releasing. But on the other hand side, I'm not a fan of a quantity. There are labels out there which put out a single every week. I think for me it's not believing in music when you do it like this, because you always have to work the next release, and the one which is on sale now doesn't interest you anymore because you have to focus on the next already. Yeah. So I want to release. I do a release once a month. That's enough for me, and it's enough work because I do promotions and marketing strategies behind it sometimes with PR companies from abroad, and that takes some time too.
Yeah. Talking about quality, what is the quality between you and the artists you sign on both on a personal level and a level as working together as musician and label?
It's very important. Actually, I would say one half of the artists that are on my label, not being me, are people I contact. So I want to have certain people on my label that I'm convinced on, and people I like, the production style, DJing style. And so I contact them, do you have any material for Duffy? And they send me stuff, and most of them doing great jobs, and I love them. And the other ones which I don't know before are also very important, because these are the ones who you can develop. So I have one album project now in the pipeline from an artist who's not very well known, but he sent me 7 tracks already, and they're all very good. And I see the point of releasing this album when he has 10 tracks, and I love it. I see development, I see progression. That's what you like to see as a label head, because then the artists are happy and the output will be good.
Yeah. Where do you draw the line in how much you influence and how much you ask from the producer, and how much they want to keep their own style intact? Because sometimes you might tell them, I would like to hear more soulful stuff in that. Could you do that? And some artists will be, yeah, sure. And others will be, hey, don't even try to interfere with my art.
I think it's very important, because you are the label who puts out the music, and you have to give feedback back until the track is ready to be released. There's sometimes with remixes, especially when you tell somebody to remix a certain track, and then he delivers or she delivers, and you're not convinced about the product, and you give feedback and say, okay, I'm not gonna release this remix if it's submitted like this, but if you do this and this change, then it might well fit. And that's most of the time it happens like this, that only some adjustments have to be done.
And do most artists agree and say, yeah let's try this? Or do most say...
I've talked to very big artists, very successful artists, who are very happy about this too. If labels get feedback, and if A&Rs, I mean A&Rs back in the day were really harsh people. When I flew to London and gave those labels that of my remixes, and they said it's shit. You can leave the office, and you flew there by aeroplane just to convince this A&R, and he said you're shit. Your production is shit.
They could have told you. They could have told you on the phone, but they didn't mind you flying over, so they can tell you personally that.
No, I think they wouldn't have listened to it if I didn't come directly to the office. So these were majestic people, you know,
pretty sadistic
in very, very big offices, and they sat there and said, what's your name? I've heard about you. Yeah, but
Simon Cowell style.
Yeah. I don't want to tell you names, but at the same time, these people have influenced me, because if you reach that point that he listened to your that, and I'm saying he because that was always male persons.
Maybe we gotta explain that is like the old digital audio tape, small cassettes. Before people had CD burners
and files
and internet
it was quite difficult,
transfer.
So you had to go there with the physical format. And if they listened to your track, they gave you feedback. Feedback could be very hard, as I explained, but it was really honest feedback and detailed feedback. So the reason we got better and better with our first successes around 2000, around the year 2000, was exactly because of this. Because these A&Rs were telling you, you know, I have a very big label, I cannot put out shit.
Yeah,
it has to be very good.
Yeah,
and so you got better. So I still feel today, I mean, with all the output we have, it's much faster, everything, but still feedback is very important, I think. Yeah.
Okay, we've reached the end of episode number 1. Thank you very much. It was very delightful, and let's meet for episode 2 in a while.
Thank you very much for having me.